Hey yo, what is happening? It is Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. Looks like I already got two people with me. If you're with me here joining you, thank you so much. We're going to talk tonight about the upcoming next weekend official Strongman games in Madison, Wisconsin. I'll give you some thoughts on that, some things to look forward to. Talk a little bit about the official Strongman games. That's what I just said. We'll talk a little bit about the Magnus for Magnuson Classic that happened last weekend. Pretty cool show. And then I'm just going to give you some free ball and thoughts on first time show promoters, what it takes to be a good strongman competition promoter. I've had a lot of people ask me about this. And if you want my thoughts and opinions, you have to tune in and either stay here towards the end or fast forward if you're watching the replay. So that's that. We will give this about 1 minute here or so. See if anybody pops up. Bet we'll go for about 20, 30 minutes tonight. And that's that. So whether you're here with me now or joining the live, thanks for being here. Give us a few seconds. And of course, as always, I do like this to be partially interactive. So if you have any questions or anything you want me to talk about or just discuss with me, please fire away. I am open to having a dialogue about this. So why don't we jump right in? Official Strongman Games 2024 is next weekend. So pretty exciting. Seeing lots of people's heavy training videos as people are peaking and coming into this thing. I think it's going to be a really fun, strong show. I, of course, am training for it. This will be my second year doing it. I'm in the 80 kilo division, and I qualified this year by winning the Southeast Regionals right there, if I can get my directions right, this year in August down here in Florida. So looking forward to it. If you don't know much about OSG, or maybe you do, as a refresher, there's going to be 4 events on Friday and Saturday, so 2 each day. That's going to start with a log press and a car yoke on Friday, and then that's going to lead into a axle deadlift for reps and a sandbag carry and sled push medley on Saturday. And then if you qualify for the top 10, if you're in the top 10 after those 4, there are 3 events on Sunday, including a wrecking ball hold, sandbag throws over bars, and stone load series of 6 from ascending weights, descending heights to seal the deal for the finals. So honestly, I think I have a pretty decent shot at the finals this year, but anything could happen. You know, you have a lot of really, really tough competition at this thing, and you have some unbelievable, unbelievable things at stake here. Just pride, glory, this and that, blah, blah, blah. But it's really something where a couple mistakes could cost some people that would finish near the top. It could take them out of the top 10. It could cost them to drop some serious points, and it could, let a few people slip into some higher positions. So you just never really know. Thinking about things like the Trump log coming up. So the way that the log press for reps works this year is it's same as the axle. Actually, you have an option between a heavy and a light log. Okay. So the heavy log is set to be a monster log from Bartos Power Center. And I've never actually used one of these before, but true to name, it's a monster log. It's very, very big. And the end caps, I believe, are 14 inches around, right? So, you have a 12-inch barrel like a standard men's log. And then the monster log has those really big wide ends. So that's going to cause a lot of issues for people with stability. And, the overhead is kind of always a big spec because you have outliers in this thing who are absolutely phenomenal at overhead. And, a lot of this, as always, kind of comes down to how do people peak and how do they recover successfully from their training program going into this. My prediction for this, for all the classes, actually, is that I think that a lot of people are going to go for that heavier log and end up having a bad time with it, whether, could be a couple different reasons. Like it's just, really, really high for them and they are unable to do very well with that weight, or the actual size of the implement itself is going to be difficult, or maybe their water cut or weight cut didn't go well. This is something that I personally suffered with when I competed at South Carolina Strongest Man in April of this year. I really did a very poor job with my water cut. my fault, just happened, but live and learn going through the process. And my pressing was terrible. It was the first event. I had a really poor endurance and explosive power the entire day. It just wasn't there. So that could really affect some people right out the gate, just if they botch that process, right? Things get difficult as you're traveling, long distances. That could play a pretty big role in this. So you never really know. But since this is such a heavy competition across the board, really interested to see how people's overall fatigue and endurance play out throughout the entire show. Because cleaning a 280 log, which is what the 80 kilo guys have, and I think the 90s have somewhere around 305, 310, that can be pretty taxing on some people. And you're going right into a car yoke, which is very back dominant, very, very, very back dominant. You have to support a lot of weight on that. So it could really set an interesting tone for how these things go throughout the rest of the time because, heavy log cleans, back heavy, yoke, back heavy. Next day starts with axle deadlifts. Obviously, that is almost entirely low and upper back. Then finishing with that sandbag pickup and carry medley. Even guys who are really, really fresh, and those types of things, if they really like waste all their energy out just on that first thing by going for that monster log, like that could really screw them for the rest of the time and have lead to a pretty poor performance. This also, of course, we have to acknowledge that there is a risk of injury with these things always, but will going for that heavy log doom some people? I really think that's a yes. Now, looking at the car yoke, I'm very excited about this personally because it's just one of my favorite events. I think yoke might be my favorite event to do in competition just because I feel very good about it. And this will be the second time I've gotten to do a car yoke. Now, when I did this the first time, the yoke was actually about probably, if I had to guess, it wasn't weight. It was Brett Fain's contraption up in Tallahassee. It's probably close to about 850 pounds. Maybe more, maybe 900. But this will be lighter for me. It will be 730, and I really am excited to give this a go and hopefully do very well in this event. You're going to see some times potentially in the sub 10 seconds. All right, so it's just a 50-foot straightaway. Get on the inside of a VW bug, shelled out, has the yoke frames in the middle, and you're going to see some fast times, man. People are really good on the yoke. People are good on everything. It's the World Championships. They should be, right? So no really major predictions there. I find often that I find it interesting that some people have such a bad time on yoke. I don't know why. That's something that already kind of always came a little natural to me. But tough to say. You might see some zeros there. One thing again, where like somebody has a knee problem on that log or something, going for a good push press or dip, that could really screw them out the gate on the yoke. So axle deadlifts, like we said with the Trump style, they have a heavy axle out and then also a light axle. One rule that's in play this year that I don't particularly care for, but it is what it is you do have to strap in on your own time. So you're going to be starting behind the bar. You'll have a go command. Then you'll step forward and strap in with your deadlift suit on and then grip and rip. So there's all these little things that are at play where, if somebody botches strapping in or if somebody, again, like something goes wrong with their lower back and they don't do well, got a lot of little variables here that could cost people major, major points. Now, on the Trump log, if I had to guess, we're going to be seeing somewhere about 10, maybe to 12 people successfully hit the heavier weights on the Trump log. Okay. Now, with the axle deadlifts, I actually think that number is going to be a little bit higher. I think we're looking at more like 15 to 20. But that's where you end up finding, right, just like capabilities. You have a lot more people who are stronger, higher end on a deadlift than they are on a log. And I just don't really know how that's going to come down to things with with the rest of the low back stuff coming in, if you follow me, right? So obviously, like very, very fresh, you have all these people good at strongman who build their base on having a good, strong deadlift. That's how I got into the sport. And I had to work on kind of everything else. My deadlift has always been bread and butter for me. So I brought like my endurance up to match like the level of how strong I was at pulling off the floor. So I really feel pretty confident that I'll be okay there, but I'm not so sure about some of these other people. What's up, Joseph? Thanks for popping in, my man. But I'm not sure about, how these other people are going to fare. I'm looking forward to it. It's just a mystery. Who knows? Really excited. But just predictions, guys. We're rolling through this. You're going to see more people hit that Trump weight on the axle than the log. I think that's a guarantee. So if you've got a lower, weaker deadlift, that's going to cost you more than if you're, close to getting that Trump log. So that's where I'm at with that. Now, finally, the sandbag carry. Tell you probably my biggest takeaway from OSG last year as a competitor and athlete is just how amazing the pace of all these people are. Strongman and most really like just good high level sports is you have a hard idea of conceptualizing and grasping like just how quick, just how fast, just how conditioned, and just how hard all the athletes push themselves. So there's a few things on some of the medleys where I'm honestly a little disappointed in myself that I didn't book it a little harder last year. I finished decently, but I cost myself a lot of points, but just like not hustling more. Like, what was I thinking? It's like 60 or 75 seconds for an event. Like, come on, bro. So I'm really excited to kind of redeem myself personally on that. And, my sandbag pickups are going pretty good. I think the Husafel sandbag will go all right. And like my legs are great for a sled push. So I'm really excited about it. Yeah, man, training's looking great for a lot of people, and that's the thing. It's also something to remember. Like, I love watching other people's stuff. Like, I don't get intimidated by seeing this person or that person really crush it because they always could fuck up, and like if I'm spending a lot of time and energy thinking about like what that person's going to do, it's not allowing me to apply myself to the highest degree. It really truly is like a blessing and a privilege just to be able to compete at this sort of show. And I'm just excited to be there, man. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who puts it all together on game day, right? I'm not really going to get into any of the like finals events for now, but like, sandbag throws, stones over bar, wrecking ball hold. Only thing I'll say about the wrecking ball hold is I think it'll be a cool visual, but what a boring event. I think it's silly. It's not really a good true test of strength. It's just kind of like a pain tolerance. If you can, keep that weight supported between your fingers and your thighs, just grip and rip. So whatever. But hey, hopefully it looks cool. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. Anyways, so if anybody has some questions about OSG, like happy to field them, bring it on. Last thing I guess I'll say for now is, boy, I'm not looking forward to the weather. I'm looking at the forecast for next week, and the highest temperature that we are seeing over there is 33 degrees. Awful. I think it goes 75 degrees. I actually went in the ocean today here down in Florida. So not looking forward to that, but hey, it is what it is. We'll be inside. Should be a cool arena. ADL streaming it. Going to be a great time. Yeah, second time for me making it, dude. I'm pretty stoked about that. I got 19th last year, and I'm much better than I was last time. So that's that. Cool. So I just want to kind of go into next. We're going to talk a little bit about the Magnus for Magnuson Strongman Classic. Really cool event, man. This is something over the last few years. The Magnus Classic has grown and grown and grown, and it's starting to attract more talent. One of the most famous things this year was Matthias Kieliskowski. This was his first competition back from his most recent injury, and I hate that I have to say his most recent injury because that guy is just having a hard time staying healthy, right? You also had Tristan Hoth and Wester Winsky in the mix, and is it Andrew Burton? Awesome. Good for him, man. I actually do not know much about him, but he finished in third by half a point, okay? But Matthias Kieliskowski took the W. Just goes to show that that guy is elite and world-class, period. Good for him. It's also kind of interesting to see how Tristan Hoth came in. He only finished about 4.5 points off the lead, but he did do pretty poorly at the Rogue, to be honest with you. And I'm not like trying to hate or disrespect or talk smack or anything. That just kind of goes to show you like some of the level of the competition that was at the Rogue Invitational, because he's finishing second amongst a very, very good lineup. You have people like Ivar Smokstelis in there, Shane Flowers, again, Wester Winsky, and this Andrew Burton guy. Rongo Keane was in there. Really a great mix. And Tristan Hoth pulled out second among all that, but was ninth, I believe, at the Rogue. So, man, that was just a pretty stellar lineup that Rogue put together. It was really an amazing competition. Dude, that guy killed it, man. I mean, what more is there to say about it? He had top five finishes in every single event. So let's see what he got tied for third on the block press, third in the Hercules hold. So I'm sorry, let's do that again. Tied third on the block press. He got second, nope, third on the Hercules hold, fourth on the Hustafel, fifth on the carry medley, third on the sandbag toss, fifth on the natural stones, second in the vertical lift, tied third in the silver dollar deadlift. And then I guess his only non top five finish was the log medley at the very end. So, those are always people to look out for that are really good and consistent across all events. Of course, that's how Mitch Hooper won his very first Arnold. He didn't even win any of the events, and yet he took the overall win, like kind of by a huge margin. So, yeah, good for Andrew Burton, man. Good for him. The scenery, that's the one that I really wanted to talk about. It's just like the setting of it itself in Iceland. Everybody knows about how beautiful Iceland is, but it's so freaking cool, man. It's so cool to watch them like do the actual Husafell stone around the pen where it actually is. It was cool to watch them do that yoke walk next to that river. It's cool to see them be outside for all these events because that's, people like to bicker and talk about like, what is true strongman or strongman should be this way or that way. And the reality is like strongman is such a broad umbrella term is that it can be any sort of thing. It can be an arena show. It can be a show at some tiny hallway gym. It can be whatever, but we have to, celebrate and appreciate when we get these cool shows that are, really full of grit and fortitude, like in the snow and ice of the Magnets for Magnuson Classic this year, especially that block press where they're doing it out in front of those mountains. Like that's just so freaking cool, man. It's so awesome. So hats off. Would love to be able to compete at something like that someday. Really cool. So that's that. Moving on. Kind of one more topic I really wanted to get into tonight. A lot of people have been asking my thoughts on the matter. So most won't hear it because not a lot of people tune into these lives, but we're going to get into it anyways. We're going to talk about promoting competitions and should there be any barriers or entries to people that want to promote a show for the first time. So here's some backstory of what's happened recently. There were two shows that were done here recently by first-time show promoters, and one of them was not very good at all. And to be honest with you, the second one was even worse and a complete disaster, right? And, there's been a lot of kind of honestly scathing comments and emails and smack talk and this and that about this, and some deserved, some not so deserved. But it's really raising a discussion about who should put on shows and like whose responsibility is it? Because I am the state rep for United States Strongman, and a lot of people think that it's like my responsibility to ensure that every single show goes well. First off, I don't get paid to do this. It's a volunteer position. There's only so much that I can do. But second off, like some people have to do their due diligence just a little bit with some of these shows because the way it's set up right now is that anybody can pay their sanctioning fee, say whatever they want on the internet, and basically convince people that it's going to be a great show. People have gotten really spoiled with a lot of very, very, very good and well-run strongman competitions that they're not used to running into bad ones. And I'm not excusing these competitions or these promoters. I just want to offer some perspective. The first strongman competition I did was in 2006 at the Arlington, Texas Convention Center. There was two divisions and there was no novice, right? So I was 16 or 17 maybe. I might have been even like 15 at the time, right? And the equipment was garbage. It ran all day long. It ran from like 9 in the morning until 10 p.m. at night. And that used to be run of the mill for strongman competitions. So like just the fact that most, and I'm talking like 95+% of shows are run mostly well, mostly on time, mostly safely, like you have to know that it wasn't always that way. They got that way because we have a lot of good people in the sport who are doing a great job. So when I get emails that people are saying like this ruins the reputation of strongman in Florida, like you got to take a step back and assess what's going on here because you're having a sour attitude and you need to like check about whose shows you're going to, right? Like if you don't know this person's name and you're an athlete that's been involved with the sport for a long time, like you've never seen this person volunteer, or you've only maybe even seen them compete once, you don't know anything about them, nothing on their social media has any indication that they're involved in strongman, maybe you should think twice about whether this is actually going to, come to fruition or not, right? There's all these things that go into running a strongman competition that I have picked up because of experience, and I'm not trying to like be over here and beating the drum about me, but like I am proud of the shows that I put on. I don't think I've ran over or late on a show in my entire life. I've put on almost 20 now. So you have to consider some of these things. Like if you've been to strongman competitions, like you should learn things quickly. Like the first time anybody goes to a show that's out in a parking lot in the middle of the day and it's blacktop and it's cooking, you're going to learn like, wow, I probably don't want to do that again. Or if I'm going to run a show, I'm not going to do it that way. Right. Or like thinking about, wow, doing Hercules holds and Fingal's finger sounds really cool. But then like if you have actually no idea how to pull that off, like that's that, like that's it's a lot of tough things you have to consider. Would I love to do all these big gigantic dream events? Like, of course I would, but I don't have, tens of thousands of revenue coming in where I can just like fabricate a beautiful set of, Fingal's fingers for everybody to do 4 or 5 lanes at once on the beach. Like I don't have a million different sandbags to do like a 5 lane, 5 sandbag to shoulder medley or something, right? And I don't want to like rant and go on and on and on, but I think that let's reel it back in and like get to my point. I think there needs to be some sort of minimum barrier to entry for people that want to promote a show for the first time. Because me personally, I am skeptical and hesitant to really throw my weight and support behind somebody who's never even volunteered one time at a strongman competition. So Will Ramirez just put on a show last year. Will Ramirez is my co-state rep here in Florida. And I knew that Will would do a great job because Will has volunteered at dozens and dozens and dozens of shows. He has judged, he has competed at them, he has worked, he has just been a spectator, he has done it all. So when you get all of those reps and all those things in, like you just have that mind to, not only plan and visualize how this thing is going to run on game day, but you also like are able to think in the moment, like, well, okay, so this happened, so then I need to do this in the moment. There's a lot of times in competitions that I'm running where something goes off plan and I have to make a decision immediately about what to do. And I'm really fortunate that because of all the experience that I've had doing all these different things, I think my intuition is pretty good. There's never been anything where I thought I've made a really bad decision. There's even been times like at World Strongest Manatee 2023, on the day of, I completely 100% changed the stone event on the day of. And like that stakes, I'm still like only mildly sorry about that, but just like executing, that event and how it had to go, I made the right choice. I'm going to stick to my guns and defend that all day long. This past year at the Masters Pro World Show that we had down here in Tampa, I had to change the rules for the fire truck up because it was too easy for the pro level competitors. It just was. And like that happens sometimes too. But I'm only doing that because like I understand like the level of challenge and the level of things that need to happen here. Okay. Um, but that's that. So I don't know. I think there's onus on everybody involved here. It's more so on those promoters. Like you shouldn't go over the top and promote, your things as the biggest and the best and the baddest if you're doing it for the first time. Everybody wants to have a lot of clout and like be the guy that runs like the baddest, biggest, most monstrous strongman competition or whatever. But nobody ever shows up to World's Strongest Man and just like wins and sweeps everything for the first time if it's their very first competition. And that's how it's going to go too with strongman competitions. You're not going to go out the gate just like starting from nowhere and create like the biggest and best one. And I think it's ridiculous to market and promote as if you're going to. It also sort of sends a message, in my opinion, to everybody else. Like if you're out there saying like you have the biggest and the best one, it's like sort of a dunk on everybody else that tries really hard to put on a good show. So me personally, I like to let my shows do the talking. And maybe I should boast about this like a little bit more, but reality is, if you've been to one of my shows, they run on time, they run smoothly, they run safely. I hope my staff is at least good enough. It's a good, welcoming, encouraging atmosphere. There aren't people here who are at each other's throats over little things. If they are, they're the exception. Um, and it's always for the enjoyment of the athletes. Like what I do things, it is about glorifying the athletes and giving them the opportunities and the platform that they deserve. Some people are so self-focused on making a strongman competition about themselves, the promoter, or their brand, that is ridiculous. It's just like the worst way to go about it, in my opinion, because strongman as a sport is about the athletes, and you know I don't mean this in a negative way, the amateurs. Like when we're watching World's Strongest Man on TV, or you go ask like anybody out on the street at the gas station or whatever, like, do you know about the sport of strongman? Like they'll tell you about people like Kazmaier and Pujanowski, but Kaz and Puds, like they don't exist. Mitch Hooper, Thor, like those people don't exist without the like 99% that competes at the local level. And if we're going to get anywhere in this sport, we need to like really, really put all our focus on accommodating and promoting and bumping up and providing opportunities for all those people. Because the people that are going to go all the way to the top, like they're going to get there one way or another. They're going to be hell bent on success, but most people don't even like really want to push it to like the professional level, right? A lot of people want to like just empower themselves and like walk the journey of getting stronger every single day. Um, wow, I'm like really feeling a lot of things as I'm talking about this right now. But why don't we wrap this back in and make this a little bit more succinct? Anybody that's promoting a strongman show should be doing it for the only for the athletes and for nothing else. The athletes that want to do these shows need to have some skepticism about what is up with a promoter if they're only looking to glorify very certain elements like themselves, their brand, or anything else about it. Because if that's what's happening, then I think you should run away from it. That doesn't excuse promoters running shit competitions, because some people don't know any better, and that's fine. I'm not like blaming anybody, but that's that. Yeah, thanks, Zach. I know, and you were at both of them, man. It's just I really have so much to say on that. I'm not trying to like be very. I don't want to like call out names and stuff. I just kind of want people to like figure it out for themselves. But if you're at any of these shows recently, like you totally get it, man. It's just a shame. It's just a shame. Not everything in strongman has to be like the biggest and the baddest and like the most monstrous. It's just that simple, bro. Like we're all in this together. Something I've been thinking about over and over and over again. I wish I could remember where I heard this, but uh, to compete means to conspire together. The Latin root of the word compete means to conspire together. So, like that's what a competition is. It's like all of us coming together to conspire with each other in strength, and not to, like, for lack of a better term, dick suck like the promoter, right? Drives me crazy. Anyways, so I could go on and on and on and on and on and on. It's something I feel very, very strongly about, but you know, it's just a recent issue. It's just a recent issue. Like we're in such a huge boom time right now that like we're bound to have some of these bad instances. So when we take 10 steps back, like let's once again look like, dude, 98% of the shows that have happened, especially here locally, have been pretty good. Like when we're really like looking for things to complain about, like it gets pretty nitpicky. So if we actually do end up having one show that's a disaster, like it was sort of bound to happen eventually. It sucks. Now let's deal with it and move forward with like our like understanding that it's going to get better. A lot of these people are not going to be around in a couple years. They're not going to keep putting on these shows because they don't actually give a shit about growing the sport. They're looking for clout. They're looking for status, and like that does not get you anywhere in this sport. It's exactly what happened with World's Ultimate Strongman. They were trying to be the biggest, coolest, baddest, and the guys that were in it did not have the right intentions. And look, they're nowhere to be found anymore. Had a quick 3 years, hot bang, boom, out. So that's all I really have to say about that. But just gonna open it up for a few questions, man. If anybody has any questions for me, would love to hear from you. Of course, now's a great time. Would love for you to check out, in here with Coach Paul Leonard, who is with me on clubstrongman.com, the Strongman Club. So it's a new resource for all things to help you become your best, strongest self. So inside there, we have, a couple different high-level coaches. Again, like myself's in there. You have Paul Leonard, Joseph Lucero, Adam Dirks. We bring on a couple other people to be announced soon. But we're providing you a lot of resources, seminars, educational content to help you learn and become your best. So whether it's just about learning log press technique, deadlift variations, how to eat, how to add pounds to your bench press, how to recover, how to stretch, things like that, or even get technical review from some of our coaches on your list. You can get that all on the inside at clubstrongman.com. And we're actually running a promo right now. If you go to clubstrongman.com, use the code FOUNDER in all caps, FOUNDER. You get a lifetime 50% off on that. That is running through here for the next couple of weeks before we really roll out publicly real big time. So go ahead, check that out. But that's that. If anybody has any questions, we'd love to hear from you. I'm going to give this about another minute or so here. And then we will wrap up, man. So, yeah, man. I mean, I'll just kind of read Zach's comment here. He said, Zach was at one of these comps, and I'll just consider this a lesson learned. I'm going to just keep an eye out for people that know what they're doing and have spent some time in the sport. Yeah, I hate to say it. One of these comps that happened recently too, this competition that did not go very well. I was checking in on the promoter and I had a lot of input and asking them are you taking care of this? Are you taking care of this? Are you taking care of this? What are you going to do about this? And all of my answers were answered satisfactory, and I thought it was going to go well, and I was out of the country, so it didn't. Oops, whatever. I did what I could. Paul Leonard says, in the U.S., Steve, how many strongman federations do you think is healthy for the sport? A great question. So now you have, right, so United States Strongman and Strongman Corp are the two big ones. You also have a new developing Natural Strongman Federation, which I think is an awesome avenue, and I'm not in any way upset about another one getting added into the mix there. I haven't put a lot of thought into that. How many of these strongman federations do you think is healthy for the sport? Let me answer something. Let me answer this in a different way that I actually have been thinking about things. So I actually, I guess I like in this current state, I think it works well that there are two major ones running. Because there's a lot of pros to each one. That being said, I think there is some room in some areas for each of these federations to clearly divide and focus the levels, because the way that strongman has grown, it sort of feels like to me that there needs to be some separate distinctions between levels and rankings somehow. What do I mean by that? Powerlifting like USAPL or any of these places, they have a lot of meets and competitions, which are, you have to qualify by a certain total, or you have to qualify by your dots or something. So it's a very clear-cut ranking about where you stand in your level. Since strongman is not as standardized, you can have people that win an open division and qualify for something like nationals that are nowhere near the same level as other competitors in that division. Now, I don't know what the solution is to this, but you just have this, you have a novice division, which could be totally, completely wide open from a complete beginner to somebody that's been doing it for 2-3 years. And then same on the open, you have that person that just won their first open division or their first novice division show. So now they're an open. And then you have somebody that's been doing it for 10 years. So USS and Strongman Corp are both pushing their like pro status out there. So we're sort of seeing an emerging like novice, open, pro level. But what I think needs to be next for Strongman, again, I'm not sure what this means, is there's got to be some sort of like separation and distinction for the different levels of the sport. That's probably not a great answer for your question, but I do like I kind of like the setup with Strongman Corp and USS. I wish there was a little more like in between in this, and that's why I like things like OSG is you have people kind of from all over doing it, and ultimately too is you end up finding that a lot of the best talent and the best athletes they'll go to the best shows and the best promoters, kind of whatever the federation is. I don't have a direct answer for you on that. I'm sorry, but it's a good one, Paul. Why don't we let's table that one and tell you what? Let's talk about our next call when we're going to be on together. I'm going to give you a call probably tomorrow sometime, and let's actually dig into that one pretty good. I think me and you would have a lot to say about that. So I'm going to table that, and I'm actually going to end it right there for tonight because I'm gonna go get some Greek yogurt, blueberries, and finish my low carb diet day for today because I'm cutting weight for OSG. And that's that. We're going to call it a wrap. Thank you so much. Check out clubstrongman.com. Paul, I'm going to call you tomorrow, brother. Be good.